Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you very much for being a guest on our show. Today we have Thelma Tirena. She is somewhere where we cannot get a picture of her clearly, but she will be participating with us on this program. And we're going to highlight Alejandro Morales. Alejandro Morales, look at it. Look at that. I got a new book, Poetry. He's been writing for years. He's very well known, but apparently this is the first poetry book he writes. So then we're going to go into brand new territory. And Thelma would guide us through the discussion because we have so many questions about this book and about his background. So let's bring in Thelma Reina. Thelma, thank you for being on the program. And please tell us about the whole issue of introducing Alejandro.
Well, thank you so much, Armando. I am delighted to be here. It's always a true pleasure to be on your show. And thank you for your ongoing, constant support of authors through the years. And this is a special pleasure for me to be here with you all today because this is kind of like the book launch, the formal book launch of what I call an iconic American Latino author. And I assure you that Alejandro Morales always blushes and says, "Don't call me that," but I do because it's true. It's true. So let me tell you a little bit about Alejandro because we are going to be talking today about a historic book in American literature, contemporary American literature, and contemporary American Latino literature in particular, because this is Alejandro's debut full-length poetry collection, Zapote Tree. So let me tell you a little bit about Alejandro Morales first. Alejandro Morales, the son of Mexican immigrants, was born in Montebello, California, and lived his childhood years in Simons, a company town of the Simons Brickyard number 3, bordering Montebello. He earned his bachelor's degree from California State University, Los Angeles, and a Master of Arts and Ph.D. from Rutgers University. Morales is an emeritus professor in the Department of Chicano Latino Studies at the University of California, Irvine. Morales' literary works include Caras Viejas y Vino Nuevo, La Verdad Sin Voz, Reto en el Paraíso, The Brick People, The Ragdoll Plagues, Waiting to Happen, Pequeña Nación, The Captain of All These Men of Death, River of Angels, and Little Nation and Other Stories. Morales received the prestigious Luis Leal Award for Distinction in Chicano Latino Literature in 2007 from the University of California in Santa Barbara. He lives in Santa Ana, California, and is currently working on 3 major complete book projects. And we'll let him tell us a little bit about that. Alejandro, you have written about 20 books, novels, short fiction, nonfiction, over a decades-long career. A lot of people are wondering, why did it take you so long to issue a full-length poetry collection?
Well, it wasn't that it took me, well, it did take me a while to come up with someone to publish my poems. And that was you who published them. I had invited you to go to UCI to read from your short stories and to other classes to read some of your poetry. And then I discovered also that you had a press. So I was one day just going through some of my poems and I said, well, I'm going to approach Thelma and see if she's willing to publish some of my poems. However, I've been writing since middle school, since high school. I've been writing poetry, what I thought was poetry at the time. And I wrote a lot. And even now, I've been looking through this, and I've already mentioned it to you, Thelma, that I already have enough for a second edition, of poems. So it isn't that I've just started. It's been a long time that I've produced poetry. I've used poetry in my books. If you read my novels, you'll find poetry. In fact, River of Angels has parts of this very long poem that I wrote that was an experience that I had in Italy. And it's titled Woman in a Box, which has about 45 stanzas. So, to answer your question, it isn't just something that just happened, but I've been writing poetry for a long time. But I discovered you, and you told me when I showed you my first collection, you said, you have enough poems here for 4 books of poetry. So that said, okay, let's publish one.
Let me ask the question of Zapote Tree. I did some research on the Zapote Tree and I came up blank. in the census. Why did you pick a Zapote tree as being the front of your wonderful book?
Well, the Zapote was the book that the tree was a gigantic tree in my neighbor's backyard, and it was filled
Oh.
with they grow to be very big. I mean, really tall trees. They have a lot of fruit. Sometimes we couldn't even pick all the fruit. They're filled with birds when the fruits are ripe, and when the fruit comes down, it creates a big mess. You know, they're either brown skinned or they're green. It is a white inside, you know, kind of soft. I don't know, not jelly, but soft, which you begin to eat, and it's sweet. It's used for a lot of different reasons, you know, for cooking. Some people use it for even rubbing. They create these ointments to rub on your skin and things like that. But every single day of my life, when we moved out of Simon's, which is an old Simon's brickyard, I'd go out the back door and turn to my left, and there was that Zapote tree since I was a little tiny kid. And that Zapote tree, you know, was with me through middle school, high school, till I got, you know, college. You know, went to East LA and Cal State LA. And also, you know, when I married, you know, got married, and then I left. But that time is when when I got married, I left the house. But that tree was my icon. That tree meant security, you know, and that tree always told me who I was. I never had an issue with identity. You know, I would always, it came from a community that was a company town, and it was in South Montebello, but not part of Montebello. And I went to a segregated school that was the Mexican school in Montebello Unified School District. And, you know, back then in the 50s, 60s, there were different names for us. We still have them. Right. But I was never ashamed. You know, I always told them, hey, I'm from Simon's, I'm a Mexican. And there it is. That's who I am. And that's kind of my attitude toward these people that say, well, who am I? You know, I have always known who I was. And I've always known of the different names that they call you. I always also accept those names. But I applied to that what I call a sort of this irony of some radical irony. I never treated those people bad. Right? I kind of respected them. Even those people that call me nasty, you know, nasty names, I respected them. I didn't treat them bad, et cetera, et cetera. And for some of them people, they actually became some of my friends, best friends.
Wonderful story.
Well, I am very happy to say that women comprise a sizable portion of the characters in Zapote Tree, Alejandro. So why is that? And how do you think readers around the world will react to these very diverse, very different individuals that you present to us in your poetry, the women folk? Tell us about that.
Well, you know, but when I grew up, and so there were a lot of women around me, right? Because my mother had friends, and a lot of people, women would come to the house, and we were a real strong community. The Simon's Company town, Simon's Brick Company town, was you know, we were very close. We all lived in the same place. We were completely isolated from Montebello to LA, et cetera. So it was always a safe zone. And the women to me, since a little kid, were always, you know, they were strong women. They worked hard. You know, they were kind, and you know, and to me, you know, they were beautiful women. You know, I always saw some beauty in all of them as I grew older. So I also have this theory as I studied more and more about literature and went on to, you know, to the Ph.D. and got my dissertation and so forth. I kind of discovered, maybe other people have the same idea, but Mexico, for example, you know, I studied in UNAM for about almost a year, had the most wonderful women. They have magical, powerful, mystical, you know, women. And that has fascinated me. In fact, I've written a character in another, I have a trilogy that I'm working on. Her name is J.R. Cruz, this character, and she's one of those powerful, magical, marvelous, beautiful women. And that's the way I've seen women, you know, throughout my life. Even my two sisters, you know, and my mom and my immediate family, but especially my two sisters and my mother. But let me talk about my two sisters. They're powerful and beautiful and magical and mythical. You know, my oldest sister, I always said that my two sisters taught me how to be brave and how to love and how to be happy. right? And so that's the relationship I have with women, and so yeah, they are important. And the women that you see in the collection, they're different kind. There are very wealthy women that are actually, it's a kind of a negative situation with that particular poem, right? But the target of this wealthy woman is one of the women who works for her. So you have women from Mexico, Central America, who work in houses, cleaning houses, etc. I admire those women. Those are the powerful, mythical, magical, powerful women, right? And then there are other women that have crossed, let's say, who've immigrated from Morocco through, have to take a boat or whatever from Northern Africa, take a boat and try to get close to the Spanish, shores. And some of them jump off, if they can swim, they jump off that boat and they try to make it to the sands, of Andalusia or wherever. So you'll see many different kinds of women. Some are magical. One woman, to me, is really powerful because she had suffered from this. She was always elegant, suffered from this horrible stroke, and now has this brace on one of her legs. And so she has to maneuver that brace when she goes to church all the time. And I would see this woman in church, and every time I'd see her, she was still very elegant, very, very poised, and very, how would I say, very proud in a sense. And so this woman is to me one of those magical, powerful women. And we don't recognize women like that. We think that women always, the ones we think are powerful and magical are the ones that are in high positions, the one who are, highly educated, beautiful, magnificent. That's who we think that are magical, powerful women. But yeah, they might be. But I see women in a whole different, way that are sort of the common folk, the ordinary folk that we all are, as far as I'm concerned. And that's kind of the idea of Unamuno, who talks about la intrahistoria. The intra-history is the history of the common folk, right? And they're the ones who give power to the people above them.
It's surprising, and I'm really happy to say that today is Indigenous Day. So to have this conversation is really wonderful. I have a question. Is there a common theme through your book, Zapote Tree? Or is it sort of just a collection of poetry during your upbringing?
Well, I think the common theme would be kind of growing up like the tree. The tree, started with roots, and that's kind of seen in the way it was organized. We had at one time fruits, but I think Norma did the right thing by cutting fruits out and just having three sections. Thelma did the right thing by having these three sections. And that would be roots, trunk, and branches. And that is kind of me. As I told you, that the tree was always with me. It watched me, sort of get my roots, right? Become this man, right? And eventually there was fruit and all the things that I produced in many different ways. So the kind of growing up both as a child and growing up also intellectually, and all of that is really what formed my vision of the world, and which enables me to have the confidence in my vision of the world to express it. And I expressed it in novels, short stories, and now, throughout this time, but now publicly in a collection of poetry. But there isn't one common theme. All these poems represent different realities, different experiences that we go through, that men or women, right, or groups of people that they experience. So it's kind of to me, I always believe that in order for books to get read, you have to have a damn good story, right? Really a great story to tell. You tell a story, you hook the people in a story, and they'll pick it up and they'll stay with the story. I think it's the same with poetry. Every poem that I have here is a story, right? I believe in that poetry communicates a story or a feeling, right, or an experience. And every single one of these, I believe, is different.
Writing a complete collection, what's called a full-length collection of poems, Alejandro, is a challenge for almost any of us. What was your biggest challenge in writing the 34 poems that comprise this volume? Tell us how you went through it.
Well, I put the poems together. I'm a terrible editor. I can't spell.
Thank goodness for spell checks out there.
That's
huh?
right. And I believe I use the original poems. I use way too many words, and so that's probably my biggest challenge is the editing. So I turned to people to help me do the editing, and I've had actually 3 women that have really helped me in the editing. One is a woman that I've known for a long, long time, who's the wife of one of my buddies I mentioned to you earlier, who passed away. Carol Penn. And she was the very first one. She edited actually 3 of my novels, which all either got read, but all 3 of these novels actually got read and published. Right? So she's a really good editor when it comes to prose. But she looked at the poet and she says, I don't do poetry. I can't edit poetry. So I said, read them and pick the best one you like. Just go with that. So she collected the very first ones that I put together to give to Thelma. Right. And then so Thelma liked them and so forth. But at the same time, I was working with another woman by the name of Margarita Lopez, who also started working with a collection. And she was the one who introduced the whole idea of the tree. Right. But she's an excellent editor. She works with me both in Spanish and in English. She's just knows so much about English, so much about Spanish. She's really, really, really extremely well prepared. And so I'm really lucky to have her, to have Carol Penn, and to work with Thelma, because Thelma is also an excellent editor, and she did the final editing, the final organization of the poems, which is not easy to do. And also she made this book happen, which made me very, very happy. I never attempted to send this to a bigger press, and frankly, all my books have been published, my novels and short stories, most of them have been published by independent presses or by university presses. The majority of the books probably university presses, but I believe in indie presses. Independent presses are power. It's a literary power source that we have in the country. Most people don't realize that. And some of the best literature in the country is coming out of independent presses. So I'm really thankful that Thelma picked this up and published it.
Alejandro, it is so exciting that you have done this book. I am so happy for the literary world, for you, for poets everywhere. But this is only the beginning. I know you have other poetry manuscripts ready, but you have 3 major book projects going on right now. So let's end on this note. What lies in Alejandro's future, literary future? Could you please tell us briefly, what are these 3 other projects?
The first project, the one that I really, really, really want to work on, and now, is titled Rainbow of Colors, and it's the story of my in-laws who lived in Japan as expats, working for major oil companies from 1920s to about 1941. And to me, it's an exciting book. I have to do a lot of due diligence because, that whole issue of appropriation and what do I know about Japan? Well, that means I have to do a lot of research. In fact, I went to Japan already, spent about a month there, and I probably will go back again. So that's my first project. Second project is a poem that's already finished. It's written in Spanish, and it's called La Jinitera, and it's about Cuba, and jinitera or jinitarismo is known in the United States or in Mexico, other parts, as Club Med prostitution. And it's about women, one particular woman who has to practice this type of jinitarismo in order to feed her, her family, not children that she has, but her family, her mother, father, and 2 brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters that she has. So it's a story about Cuba, the politics. I try to keep the politics out, but it's difficult not to, have the politics. So I'm going to send it out. It's going to be, it's already finished. We have just a few little things to do. We're going to translate it to English, and I'm pretty sure I have a publisher in Spain. And let's see what happens. Maybe they'll attack the poem, the politicos and so forth. But that's what literature is all about. The literature has to make you think and write and response. I have real thick skin. So there he goes. That's and the third one is a collection of poetry that I have in English.
Now Alejandro will give us the pleasure of hearing some of his poems. He has selected 3 poems to share with us today. Alejandro?
Yes, thank you. The first poem is entitled Zapote Tree, Sweetest Memory. When I was very young, in the late afternoon, the house became quiet. After finishing morning chores, mother lay down to rest. I climbed in next to her, eager for her to spoon me and cuddle me close to her warmth. Estate quieto, mijo. Oye, escucha los pajaritos. I followed her finger, pointing beyond the window to the giant Zapote tree with thousands of singing birds. I listened to the chirping in the tree, her embrace, warm, safe. I was happy. I concentrated on the birds, singing to her beautiful heart. In her immense calmness, I always fell asleep. The sweetest memory I have of her plays on. Another poem is Frida. So another, I guess, powerful, magical, wonderful woman, Frida. I can worship you, you can worship Frida, put her on a pedestal, dress like her, tattoo her on your body. I idolize nobody. I acknowledge the Mexican and Central American working woman sitting on the bus bench at 5 a.m. She cleans your house. She mends your expensive department store clothes. She takes care of your child or your parents. I praise the Mexican and Central American woman. She waits at 6:30 in the afternoon for bus number 67. I smile at her tired face. She nods to sleep during the long ride to a corner in Santana where she gets off to walk to her sister's apartment. I offer admiration to the woman. She survives low pay, dirty words, pawing at her body, lustful looks, racist opinions, ugly gestures, empty nights, heartfelt loneliness. She is not afraid of you. Ella es una entre miles de mujeres ninguneadas by cruel, abusive women who smiling command with impunity to keep their docile maid in place. She is the unseen, unrecognized, crucial link to your economic backbone that you lean against in the seat of your luxury vehicle. Not afraid of you, no se raja, from her tumultuous and burning dreams. She rises again, never entirely rested, looks you in the eye, carves your mind, and reminds you of your terror of her leaving.
Wow.
And
that was powerful. Thank you. Yes, please.
so, do you have any questions?
Wow. No, wow, that was awesome. No, please continue. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me read one more.
Absolutely.
Now this one's a little longer. It is Santa Monica Promenade. And this happened close to, when was it? September 11th? Is that right? Yeah, September 11th. And anyway, it's about a poet. And so it goes this way. My friend Sherman Pearl told me he had written over 2,000 poems. We sat dining at Toscana, a favorite restaurant in West Los Angeles, after one of my less than spectacular public performances. I read at Midnight Special Bookstore on Santa Monica Promenade. Few listeners came. I counted them in my hand. My family attended, their friends, and Wolfgang Bender, brilliant mind, kind heart. They sat and listened in the cool, low light reading corner that Sherman really liked. My heart was at first not there to read to my loving family, captured in that obligatory literary arena, listening to a novelist stumbling over and under and through his written words. I laughed inside. My family knew me so well. How can they take me seriously? They have seen me literally on my back, kicking and shaking my hands, arms, feet, legs, screaming, I'm laughing Beetle. I entertained them. They have put me together again and again after I have stumbled or tumbled down a black diamond ski slope, spreading gloves, poles, skis, helmet, goggles, creating an impressive yard sale, down the great mountain. They have seen me at my best. They have laughed, not at my expense, but their joy for their joy and love. They watched over me even after such a lusterless performance. That night, Sherman and I drank wine to them. His eyes welled. He smiled as my family laughed, argued, glanced over, leaving us alone. To our thoughts, words, to our 2,000 poems. Bravo, Sherman. Such an achievement. I poured him another glass of wine.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, it's wonderful. I've been very moved by being on this program. I want to thank Thelma T. Reyna for telling me about this outstanding book. She told me a while back, she says, Armando, you're going to be excited. She was absolutely right. And then on top of that, just the additional focus of being able to talk to the author, Alejandro Morales, on his poetry book, Zapote Tree. And it's coming from Golden Foothills Press. And let's talk to Thelma about it. Thelma, tell us about the excitement of this book, that it's coming out, when it is available to the public.
Well, thank you so much, Armando, and thank you again for having Alejandro Morales and me on your show. It's always a pleasure to chat with you about anything literary, anything political, whatever. So we'll both be happy to come back again.
Always.
Yes, Alejandro's book is now widely available. It has been released for public sale. The best place to purchase it is at the press that issued it, Golden Foothills Press. And you can get information straight from our website. In fact, you can order it straight from www.goldenfoothills.press.com. It's also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your favorite bookstore. It's widely available now. So thank you for seeking it out. And I know it's going to be a true reading pleasure for you. And thank you again, Armando and Alejandro. You're both absolutely wonderful.
Well, thank you very much, Thelma and Armando. And thank you for all the work you do to get Chicano Latinx literature out there, and to people know about it and learn about it in California, the United States, the whole country, and abroad. Truly appreciate that very, very much. Thank you.
My short closing statements is thank you for reminding us to find our roots, to feel secure, and most importantly, to grow, to expand, to take our richness of history, background, society, and make it grow, make it expand, and give fruit to the next generation as you have done. You don't have one tree, you've planted a whole plantation of them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, I say adios to everyone. Thank you for being on our program. And I look forward to having you once again on your program. Maybe we'll get you when you're in Tuscany, in Rome, or wherever you are in the world.
That sounds great. Yes.
Adios.
Ciao. Gracias.